What up, what up, what up? Welcome to another episode of New Orleans Basketball and New Orleans Network podcast. As always, I am your host, Raphael Rattler, joined by my fellow middle brother, Garrick and Raphael. What's popping with you, bro?
What up, bro? Another sports-filled weekend. Just enjoying it, man. Enjoying. This is really the sweet spot of sports. This is even like the MLB baseball, the playoffs are going on. It's like you get baseball, you got basketball, you got football, and it's just all good. So I'm enjoying it. I'm worried what it is. It's Sunday. Pels played yesterday, so Saints will be kicking off in a little bit. My ace is looking to take home the chip later this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Tip off at 2. So I mean, it should be a glorious day today. Hopefully, we'll see. But how's everything on your end?
Everything is blessed. Arkansas did get spanked by Alabama. We're still going on 30 plus years of not beating Alabama. But
Woo pig though. Woo pig.
Yeah, Dion lost. We're hoping for a better weekend. But it's been a rough one for me so far. So before we get into the Pelicans and their loss and their issues, make sure y'all follow us on Twitter, on X, on IG, on TikTok. That's NO Basketball, no E. Make sure you like the episode below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, New Orleans Basketball. Again, the regular season right around the corner. We'll have more and more content for you guys, and you don't want to miss out on that. So the Pelicans lose again. They are 0-3 in the preseason. Again, you don't really care about the record. You don't really care about the score. But there are some things that have stood out through 3 games that have caused everybody who watches the Pelicans to freak out and say, this team is not making the playoffs. I don't know how many teams have ever won the NBA championship in the preseason. But if you don't win any games, that means that your season is over, apparently. But let's dive into some of the troublesome things. So really this game versus the Hawks in Atlanta, it was a tale of 2 halves. So the first half was, let's just be honest, it was disgusting. Like, it was very similar to some of the other games that you've seen from the Pelicans in the preseason so far. The first thing I did notice was that the player we've been talking about to end the show, both preseason games so far, Dyson Daniels was the first sub off the bench. Again, Dyson is earning those minutes and earning his opportunity to play, and he is thriving in that role. You talked about it last pod. Like, Dyson should be pushing by the end of the season of, hey, like, does he need more minutes and things like that? So outside of that, there wasn't a whole lot of positives in the first half. So 17 turnovers. The game after, this is the first half. This is the game after you had 25 turnovers as a team. Like at some point, you have to value the basketball. Like, at some point, you have to not just throw the ball in the stands, off your knees, off your ankles, and things like that. Like, your 2 stars, B.I. and Zion, both look sluggish. They were slow to rotate. They were gambling on defense. They looked winded and, like, not in basketball shape. And, like, that's not a recipe to win very many games. Again, it's the preseason. You don't really care about those type of things, but you cannot let these things fester over into the season. Like, I get it. You got to ramp yourself up. You got to get back into basketball shape. Zion hasn't been playing basketball for forever. B.I. basically wasn't playing basketball for FIBA. Like, is it concerning to you that the starting lineup has come out sluggish 2 games in a row now?
Of course, it's not great, right? It's not great. We talk about using the preseason to kind of build upon good habits and things. And, of course, you want to take everything and say, hey, it's the preseason. On one side, you can't, negate the good things and say, oh, it's just the preseason. And then when the bad things come, you say, oh, well, the world is ending. You got to find a happy medium in between. But I do think that some of the things that we're seeing from the starting lineup, it just looks flat. It looks like guys are coming out and treating the preseason as it's just a formality, right? Like, you shouldn't do anything during the preseason. And listen, again, the Pelicans, they don't have a traditional point guard. They don't have a floor setter. Not a lot of those guys left in the NBA, but the Pelicans for sure, especially with their best players not being point guards, not being ball handlers, being more scorers than anything else. I just think, the team itself hasn't had a lot of time to play basketball together, meaning the starters, the bench, just up and down the floor. It's a lot of continuity issues. A lot of people, oh, you wanted the ball there. Oh, okay, I didn't get the ball to you there. I thought you might have wanted it somewhere else. And you're seeing a lot of that. And some of these careless turnovers, man, like I want to contribute to the preseason, contributed to guys just like, you know what, I'm not trying my hardest, because we've seen these guys be excellent in regular season and in postseason play. When we talk about CJ and Brandon Ingram. So, these guys are capable of being, of doing some fantastic things. It just looks like they're treating the preseason as a formality. And I think some of the good thing, one of the good things about it though is that it's allowing, other guys to get on the floor and, have to play hard, not only to, make a team and make the roster, but they're trying to get back into the game. And we're seeing some of the younger guys, some of the bench players, some of the new faces on the team come through and not save the day, but at least make the day look more respectable. So, it's concerning because you want to see the teams build upon good habits and do things that show a positive momentum, a positive swing moving forward. I was hoping this opening quarter from this game would be, all right, we BS'd the whole first half, last game. Let's come out here and erase the sour taste of that game and do something better. And we just did not see that.
Yeah, I mean, the refs were in regular season form because, man, there were so many, like, between the Zion goaltending and, like, Zion get beat the hell up at the rim. Like, they were like, oh, yeah, we forgot how to ref this guy. And then on the other side, you see Trae Young just throw his head back and they'd be like, oh, whistle. And
we know that. We know Trae Young is a foul merchant.
They are in regular season form, but like as far as the rest of the roster, the rest of the first half, we talked about it last week. Way too many like hero passes where like there was one where like Brandon Ingram tried to throw it to Zion as soon as he got the rebound, and I think it was Collins just stood there and like picked it off, and then having like 3 possessions in a row. It's like, bro, just make the simple pass. There was just too much of that. Just too much like inconsistency. Like we talked about the James Borrego offense after the first game and how the ball movement was crisp, the pace was high. That's been gone since that first game. And so, again, it's the preseason. You want to give them time to work it out, but you don't want these things to continue, and then you get to the regular season. Oh, we're going to flip the switch. At some point, you want to identify who you are going into the season. Now, the second half was much better. You talked about it. Some of the bench guys kind of came in and gave a spark. But ultimately, and Willie Green talked about this in his post-game presser, like about that 8-minute mark in the second half, the starters decide, oh, yeah, like we're really good at basketball. Let's go play basketball. And they start taking care of the ball. Like they finished with, I think it was 8 turnovers in the second. That's still not good, but it's not nearly as many as they had in the first half. But they got to the rim. They got in the passing lanes. The things that made them good last year without their star players, they started doing. Like Brandon Ingram was just settling way too much for jumpers for no reason. Like, Brandon Ingram, you are also one of those mismatched nightmares. You should take it to the rim and force them to do something different. And I just felt like he was settling a lot. But in the second half, he started going. In the second half, you saw more points Zion. The ball started moving around and things like that. The other thing that I think is missing from the team right now, even though the team has a lot of depth, and we'll talk about some of those guys in the second line that have stood out, but there was just no energy from this game and from the Rockets game. Like I saw someone in the comments last game saying, it's not that the Pelicans weren't trying, it's that the Rockets were stopping it. There can be two truths here, right? The Rockets were playing good defense, But we've also seen the Pelicans be the worst team 3 straight times. And so it's not like the Rockets are world beaters, but you're not getting something out of players that you normally get things from. And the thing that's missing from here is energy, like that energy that the Pelicans play with that made the city really get reinvested in. It's been missing. But guess who else has been missing? Jose Alvarado, Trey Murphy, Larry, guys that spark that energy. And so, like, that's part that, again, hopefully you get those guys back in the next week or two ready for the regular season. But that's something that I think that's been missing. So the thing that has not been missing and the thing that's been consistent with this team is injury. So last week, Liam Robbins gets waived because he gets injured again. In the first half of the game, Herb gets a sore neck or a neck strain. I think he'll be okay. He was back on the bench cheering for the team. Najee hyperextends his knee. Like, is the Pelicans cursed? Like, we haven't gotten to the regular season, Garrick. Like, are you starting to get worried that, like, there are just too many injuries and we have not even started basketball yet?
Yeah, I tweeted like a year ago that we need to think about going down and saging the Smoothie King Center, the Superdome, and the medical staff. I mean, and the practice facility on airline. And this was before Zion got hurt and Brandon Ingram got hurt and everything. Man, it's just tough. It is tough. It seems as though every time a player, hey, listen, I was watching the game the same way everybody was watching. And even some of the falls Zion took, I was like, oh my Lord. Oh, and any one of these could be the big one. And you know, it is a weird and it is a terrible way to have to consume your basketball, your sports fandom, but it's life in New Orleans. As a New Orleans sports player, as a New Orleans sports fan, it's just part of the day. So, I'm hoping, Herb is fine. This isn't, it was just, a screen kind of took him out of the play. But Najee, man, you hate to see. Najee is another one of the guys, like, he has his faults and he has things that are, that don't work well when he tries to go to him. But the guy plays and he plays with his heart and he hustles. And it's just, sucks to see a non-contact injury like that happen. So I'm hoping for the best for Najee. I think the Pelicans just have to, continue to next man up, right? It's sad, like, but the NBA waits on no one. Nobody's going to cry over you. Nobody's going to take it easy on you. So you have to go out and find the next person. You have to do more. You have to start taking more care of the ball so you get more shots. And until people come back and you can, kind of inject some life into the team. But I think, the injury bug is gonna always be a part of, sports, but it seems to be just a recurring nightmare for the Pelicans. So, we'll see this new revamped medical staff with, other people making decisions and other people pulling strings and caring for the players. We'll see, they're going to get their work early. They're going to get a lot of reps in. It's the preseason. You're going to get your reps in too. And so, we'll see how it goes, but I'm, hoping for the best for Najee.
Yeah, I think, the way Willie Green kind of talked about it, neither one of the injuries should be too serious. Obviously, a hyperextended knee, you don't want that, but Willie Green seemed to be optimistic about both Najee and Herb there. So we talked about it a little bit. Let's talk about Brandon Ingram's struggles. Like, obviously, we saw FIBA not go well this summer. You want to get back to your team. You want to get back to your role. You want to get back to getting to the Brandon Ingram that finished last season as one of the best players in the NBA down the stretch. But so far, like, you feel as if he's been pressing a lot. Like, he's been really loose with the ball. Now, everybody's had turnovers, but, like, he's had a lot of them, and a lot of them are unforced live ball turnovers that lead to points the opposite way. And so, like, we talked about him, like, kind of settling. And, again, Brandon Ingram's mid-range game, I don't know if that's necessarily settling because it's money the majority of the time when he has it going. But you want, and we've talked about this in previous years on this pod, Brandon Ingram needs to force people to make him go to what he does best in mid-range. And the way he forces people by putting his head down and getting to the rim. That's the best version of Brandon Ingram, where he is forcing the issue, getting to the foul line, and then at any point in time, he can pull back and hit his jumper. And I feel like those things have been in reverse. And so in that second half, you saw him get a little bit going. You saw the Pelicans get back into the game. And that's where he needs to start. But in terms of just like the hero passes, a lot of them have come from BI, where he's just trying to do too much with one hand, and he's leaning into, hey, I'm the main facilitator now. I'm the point forward now. And I feel like he's just doing a little too much and not letting the game come to him in terms of maintaining the ball and just making the easy pass. How do you feel about Brandon Ingram's struggles up until this point?
It feels very similar to last season when we were talking about, the Pelicans want to make CJ McCollum the point guard. And, I always said, when the game boils down, what do you do when the shot clock is down, or, when the game is on the line? Where is your mind frame? Is your mind frame to make the right play, or is your mind frame to score? And CJ, he's a bucket. He got paid. He get paid like an all-star, like he said, because he was a bucket in Lehigh, he was a bucket in Portland, and he's a bucket in New Orleans. Brandon Ingram is very similar. This is the first iteration of Brandon Ingram since he's been at Duke, where he's been asked to be the point guard, to be the distributor, to be empowered by your coach out loud to be the guy facilitating. And you're seeing Brandon Ingram trying to figure it out on the fly. His role in FIBA was to stand in the corner and be the floor spacer, which we saw it didn't work, and he vocalized it. And now we're seeing him as the point guard, where he's figuring it out. And, it's, again, a small sample size because, he's been the point facilitator at times last season, but Zion wasn't there for majority of that. Mm-hmm. And, and there's a difference when Zion is on the floor. There's just a difference in how the team operates than when he's not. And so, one of the things is space, right? Like if you have Zion there and JV and Brandon Ingram, who is not a great 3-point shooter, and Herb Jones, like there's just a lot of clunkiness in the lineup. And part of it is, obviously CJ is a floor spacer and can shoot the ball. But part of it is just the guys there, where you see in JV try to do more and space the floor, standing parked out on a 3-point line. But then you look at his rebounding numbers, and he has one offensive rebound because he's trying to be parked out at the 3-point line and be a force placer. So it's give and take, push and pull for the offense right now. And again, these guys are trying to figure themselves out. And it's not an excuse, but it's like, they've only played 13, 14, 15 games together between CJ, BI, and Zion. It is wonky as hell, and it's going to continue to be wonky until they figure it out. Later on today, we'll see Dame and Giannis take the floor, right? I don't expect that to be perfect, even though it's probably a better pairing than like BI and Zion as far as fit-wise. When you talk about Giannis's domination down low and Dame being able to, kind of destroy teams from 30 feet plus. But I don't expect them to be, have it all figured out first couple of games either. So even LeBron, D-Wade, and Bosh went 9-8 their first couple of games in Miami. So listen, it's going to take some time. It's ugly as hell right now. I am very aware of it. It is concerning to say the least. But I do think that there is a mentality that needs to be switched. Maybe it takes the regular season to do it. It sucks if it has to be that. But there needs to be the mentality switch, and it needs to start with Brandon Ingram being more careful with the ball, and understanding that he has the opportunity here. He talked about in the season interviews at Media Day about wanting to get some of this money that is paid out. And the only way to do that is to become all NBA. Well, you can't become all NBA turning the ball over 5 times a game and settling for jump shots and things like that. Now, he is taking more threes, right? He took 3 threes this game. He is trying to take more threes. He didn't make one. But I think he's just trying. He has a lot on his plate right now as far as you have to set the team up. You are the facilitator. We also need you to incorporate the 3-ball into your game. Oh, by the way, you haven't played with these guys in forever, so you have to find your space. It's just a lot on his plate, and I think we're seeing him trying to process it all, and it's not pretty right now, but hopefully as time goes on, because these guys aren't going anywhere. So hopefully as time goes on, they figure this out, and Brandon Ingram can get back to the Brandon Ingram that we all know.
Yeah, the thing from FIBA that BI talked about was it was his first opportunity. Really, that was his first opportunity playing with a lot of talent and knowing how to deal with that. You bring up a great point. Last year, you had CJ, you had JV, but you're not playing with like tier 1 talent at that time, and so a lot of the offense was give Brandon Ingram the ball, and everybody else just kind of stand away and go away and let him operate. Whereas when Zion is on the court, that should never be the game plan. Like at certain times, shot clock going down, things like that. But you should never be like, hey, Zion, just go stand in the corner. And so to your point, I think it's way more natural for Zion, who he has said it himself, he views himself as a point guard. You see it when he brings the ball up the court. He understands the best way to create for the people around me is for me to get my own. And then make the defense react off that. Whereas sometimes I feel like BI is trying to get people going versus getting himself to the rim, getting himself to the cup, getting himself to the spots he needs, and then letting the game come to him. So you're right. Like this is the first time he is being asked to be the point guard of the team. And so that's going to take a little bit of time to get comfortable with the pieces that you have. Now, the other thing that's going to take a little bit of time is Zion getting into shape. Like, there's way too much jogging, way too much gambling. There'd be times where, like, I'm looking at the possession in the half court on defense, and there's only 4 guys. And I'm like, where is Zion? He's jogging back. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, we're in the middle of possession right now. And a lot of that comes to condition. I understand. The man hasn't played basketball in months. But as someone who's growing and trying to earn that leadership spot, trying to earn what he said, be what he needs to be for this city, for this team, you got to show it in your hustle every play. It's got to be there every play. It shouldn't be like, where is the best player on my team? He's just kind of walking up the court. That's the Luka stuff on defense, right? Like you've got to be able to show it from effort consistently. And again, it's the early part of the preseason. Everybody's getting their legs underneath them. But then I turn around and look at all the teams that the Pelicans have played to this point, and I'm like, those guys don't seem winded. Like those guys seem like they're hustling after every ball and every loose effort. And so again, it's the energy. And if I had to sum up what we've seen so far, it's the energy that's been lacking with the team. Now, the second line has not necessarily been lacking that energy. So first of all, let's just talk about it. We got to open the floor for Jordan Hawkins right now. This was the game where, like, I see the vision. Like, this is what he's supposed to be. What did you see from Jordan Hawkins? Man, it's going to be hard to keep this guy out the rotation. Especially with Trey out, it's going to be hard.
Yeah, it's what I was looking for, man, and what I talked about last show. Like this guy, he's just fearless. He doesn't care if he's missing. He's letting it loose, right? He started off slow, and then when he caught fire, and the jumper, it just seems like he is born to shoot the basketball. I mean, he barely touches rim when he shoots. And listen, the Pelicans were, decent in 3-point percentage, just not in 3-point attempts. This guy took 11 threes last night. So the 3-point percentage per the 3-point attempts might go up if you play this guy. And that's what you need. His job is to shoot the ball and shoot it well. And if he's going to take 11 threes, obviously it's a preseason. He had a lot of minutes. But that shows you his confidence. That shows you that he's a volume 3-point shooter. And that player is so important in an offense that is centered around guys who want to be in the mid-range or at the rim. To have a guy that is just like, to hell with all of that, it's in the air. And I enjoy watching him. I think he's going to be one of those guys where you talk about Jose and his type of bringing the energy, and Larry Nance and his type of bringing the energy, and Trey Murphy and his type of bringing the energy. I think Jordan Hawkins is a guy that could find himself setting the Smoothie King Center on fire a couple of times just because he's such a lethal shooter. And again, this is his first year in the league. And so you only get better with reps and and things like that. But what I'm getting and what I like to see is that his reputation is starting to precede himself. You heard the Hawks announcers talk about his shooting and how he needs to be guarded, and somebody needs to step out on Jordan Hawkins, and that's going to start coming into game plans, right? If he continues to show like, hey, if I'm on the floor, it's gonna be up, and if you leave me alone. And even if you don't leave me alone, like if it's a late contest, if it's a slow contest, if it's a hand down contest, I'm gonna make the shot. That bodes well for like I said, a team that has JV and Zion and Brandon Ingram and guys who want to be down in the paint. So you remember Larry Nance talking about in the Spaces last year that CJ, Brandon Ingram, Zion, all guys who want to score in a certain place. Well, Jordan Hawkins is a guy that wants to score in very, very different places than he. And I want to see it. I want to see the Trey Murphy, Jordan Hawkins line up with everybody who Brandon Ingram, CJ, Zion. Pick your three, well, pick your two, your one, other than maybe if you don't want to put CJ out there with them. But CJ, BI, Zion with those two guys on the wings flaring out. I just can't wait to see it. But it's so good to see Hawk kind of find his way, find some confidence in his shot, and see some of them go in, so that you get that reward system in your head, right? Like, if I keep shooting, eventually they'll go in, and that's how you develop consistency. That's how you develop confidence in your game.
Yeah, it's that feeling when Trey gets the ball in the Smoothie King Center, everyone kind of leans up. You start to feel that with Jordan Hawkins, like. If he got the ball, there was zero hesitation. Like, none. He could have bricked the one before. He is letting it fly. And, like, to your point, like, that is something this roster desperately needs, especially without Trey Murphy. And so if he can do that consistently, just catch fire, that's another element to this offense that I just keep bringing. The thing that stood out to me is he was guarding Bogdanovich. He was chasing him around screens. He was doing that role. If Herb is going to guard the best player, unless the best player is Steph Curry on your team, your best player is probably not your movement shooter. So if Herb is guarding whoever your best player is, who would you put on the movement shooter that you got to chase around the court? This is where I could potentially see Jordan Hawkins having an impact. The same person that's going to be chasing him around, he's going to chase around on the other end. And I think, again, the defense and the lack of weight and things like that, yeah, that's concerning. But if you're able to make up for it and you're a better defender than their movement shooter, I think that's a reason for you to be on the court. Now, another person who was on the court that we started the show with, Dyson Daniels. There was a play where Dyson, and this was, I think I texted you. I said, this is the vision for Dyson. He got the rebound. Instead of looking for B.I., C.J., Zion, whatever it was, got the rebound, saw he had numbers, and took the coast to coast and finished at the rim. That's Dyson. That is what Dyson needs to bring to this team. That's an element to this team that it desperately needs. Someone who's going to force the issue, push the pace consistently. If he's able to do that, and I saw him make a couple of dunks, and there was one where he was right underneath the goal, and he passed it out. But if he could just slowly grow on that confidence and his aggression that, hey, I got an offensive game that I'm waited to unfold as well, I think that's another step for this team. What did you like from Dyson from this game?
I am really enjoying watching the development and the growth of Dyson Daniels. We've seen 3 games of Dyson Daniels, and it seems like every game is a different, like, oh, he has that now? Oh, he has that? Oh, that's what he wants to do now, right? We had the 3-point game, right, where he went 3 for 4, and everybody's like, that's interesting, right? But then he comes to this game, and he has 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 steals. Listen, this is a point guard. You have a point guard. Here he is. This is a guy who can do a lot of things on the floor, right? And the thing that makes him a good fit for, say like a starting lineup, right? And I'm not saying Dyson to start. I'm saying if you visioned him as your point guard, this is what you're seeing. A guy that does not need the ball to be effective, but when he has the ball, he can be effective, setting people up, putting pressure on the rim in transition, finding guys in the shooting pockets with accurate passes, taking care of the ball, right? Dyson had one turnover, and those are the things that you're seeing. And when you see a guy that is so locked in where he's affecting offensively and he's defensively, right? We talked about it at media day. He said, I was a good defender. I was a great defender last year. I want to be an impact defender. Well, that's how you do it. You get steals, you use your length, and you contest shots. And when you get them steals, don't look for people. You are the point guard. Take the ball and go, right? You have to force the issue and force yourself to be seen as that guy has to be on the floor because he's taking care of the ball. He's moving, he's getting guys, and he's defending. He's getting guys in shots, and people like to play with him because he's running, because he's finding guys in transition, because he's hitting shooters in the pocket. Guys want to play with that kind of energy and things. And so, Dyson's preseason, he has been a star this preseason, right? For the Pelicans, at least, in the sense of showing you the growth, showing you the things that he's been working on. And when you talk about wanting to see people come into the preseason and use it as a launching pad, Dyson is using this opportunity to do so, unlike some of the starters that we're seeing. And so it's really good to see Dyson kind of fill out and grow into the role and the position that David Griffin saw when he drafted him, and that made him a lottery pick. And so I'm very excited about Dyson Daniels' year this year.
Yeah, especially, if Najee misses any amount of time, things like that, that's your opportunity to get in the rotation and to not lose it. I think Dyson's going to start in the rotation anyway. So I want to talk about a couple wild cards before we get out of here. So Kaiser Gates got a decent amount of minutes this game, and immediately you're like, oh, that guy can shoot. He was shooting. Now there was a couple ones where he just let go anyway. You're like, oh yeah, he's a shooter. Where he's 99% contested, but he's letting it go anyway. But this is a guy who's got a relationship with Najee Marshall. Najee said he's one of the best shooters ever seen. I mean, the man shot 55% from three in the G League last year.
Yes,
that's a ridiculous clip.
I don't care where you playing. You could be playing 2K. You could be playing Pop Shot. You shoot 55% from the 3-point line. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, and so he's on a 2-way contract. He'll be playing with the squadron, but again, as we've already seen, who knows what you need throughout the season. And that's a guy who, if he can do his part on the defensive end, if he's going to shoot like that, unconsciously, there might be a role for him throughout the season if somebody goes out. The person we need to end this podcast about, that you and I were talking about right before the game, and we're like, ooh, we haven't seen it yet, is E.J. Liddell. The things that E.J. Liddell does in terms of being different from Larry Nance, I think Larry Nance is a much better finisher near the basket. We saw EJ hit one of his push shots. I don't know how many of those are going to go in because he's not that tall, and a lot of times he's playing small ball 5 or the 4. And so if he's 6'7" and everybody else is 7 foot, the push shot it's just the math ain't gonna math. But he made one this game. But the thing he does different from Larry Nance, and we've talked about how they can kind of balance each other out and keep each other healthy throughout the season, is he was shooting that ball with confidence from the 3-point line. There have been too many times early in the preseason where EJ catches on the 3-point line, and all we've heard is EJ's ability to shoot, and he just passed the ball up. I'm like, wait a minute. If this is what you do, why not do it? In this game, he shot it with confidence. Even the announcers on the other end was like, EJ Liddell, man, that guy's got a shot stroke and things like that. That's the other. If you can space the floor as the small ball 5, you just talked about it. If you've got Trey in, if you've got Jordan Hawkins, B.I., Zion in, if your 5 is JV is a 5 who can shoot, but if your 5 is a shooter more than anything, especially a small ball 5, I think that's another element. What did you like from EJ's game that finally you see the confidence kind of come out from him?
Whenever I see EJ and I see his build and his role, I think of Boris Diaw. He needs to go get some Boris Diaw footage and watch that, because he has a lot of similar traits as Boris, and a lot of ways he can affect the game that is similar to Boris Diaw. And if you know, Boris Diaw was a great contributor to Spurs, to championships, as well as Phoenix, some of the success that Phoenix has had. And so I think that's a role for him. EJ is a phenomenal athlete, and the shot looks good, and he needs to be empowered to take more, right? This is a guy who can help you out in that position, and in that role, and he can do it. And so you have to give him opportunities and empower him to shoot the three. Now, again, some of the shots like you said, the push shots and things, you can find, crafty ways to make buckets, right? We've again, Boris Diaw is one, Draymond is one who, obviously not a scorer, but has, scored points in his NBA career, not being the best athlete, not being able to be, get off the floor and dunk on people and things, and being short and undersized and all of that. But I do think that EJ has a better, like you said, a better shot than Larry Nance. And I think because he's younger and is more mobile, meaning like he's, he can have a little bit more lateral quickness and things, he has an ability to contribute. Now, we just need to see it from a consistent basis. He needs to continue to take that shot confidently and shoot it the way he did. He had a perfect shooting game, right? Didn't miss a shot at all yesterday, and I think that's good for his confidence to step up. But it all in all, it was a good showing. I think for some of the guys on the second line, if those guys, it's sad to say, but if those guys can just like get to the starters and be like, hey, can we get some of that from you guys? It's a shame that it has to be that way, but it looks like it does. But shout out to EJ for having that game. Like you said, we talked about it. We were like, man, we got to see something from EJ, right? You get a contract, you become part of the roster, part of the rotation. This is your opportunity with Larry Nance out to kind of solidify your rotation spot. And we just hadn't seen it, but it was really good to see it come to fruition yesterday.
Yeah, so in an overall disappointing game, the two rookies were the ones that stood out the most. And so you hope that some of that trickles into the next game, which is on the last preseason game, which, again, they're playing the Magic twice in the preseason. That's weird. But in Orlando this time, as the Pelicans conclude their preseason. So, again, a lot of time, or not a lot of time between now and the regular season, but there's some things, like Willie Green said, that they've got to fix. What you got left for the people, Garrick?
As always, you never know what people are going through, so give someone a smile today. The time is ticking. Pels have some things to work out. Still a preseason game to go where, hopefully the guys are taking it seriously and trying to get to it. And, we'll be there for for the ride. So as always, follow myself on Twitter at Garrick_Rattler. Follow my brother at Raphael_Rattler. Follow the page, NO Basketball, no E, on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you get your socials. And most importantly, subscribe to NewOrleans.basketball, and we'll see you guys in the next one.